Yo, what's going on, guys? It is time for another reaction video, and today I'm going to be reacting to New Zealand, a visual geography class. And quick shout out to the New Zealand family. I really enjoy y'all's content. If by chance you happen to see this video, hello from Houston, Texas. Let's get into it.
New Zealand, also known as Aotearoa, is an island nation in the Polynesia, a vast region with plenty of small islands in the Pacific Ocean. You can locate this country quite easily on any map you may have lying around. Well, maybe not that easily. It is astonishing how common it is for people making maps to forget about New Zealand. But worry not, we are here to help. Lying in the southwest Pacific and almost 2,000 kilometres east of Australia, New Zealand consists of two main islands, along many smaller islands scattered around the area. Some people might think that this country is quite lonely in this corner of the world. However, if we were to draw all the maritime borders of all the countries nearby and New Zealand itself, we would find that, well, it's still quite lonely.
That's actually a really cool depiction of that. I like the way they did that because they're doing the maritime markers, so not just the physical islands, but how far the outreach is around those islands. It puts it into more perspective. It doesn't look like they're quite as far away as perhaps they really are. But I've just never, on all my time of doing all these videos and looking at this, I've never seen anybody break it down that way. It's really cool.
In fact, due to its remoteness, it was the last large habitable land to be settled by humans. As we know, the first humans evolved in Africa and left that continent about 100,000 years ago, reaching almost all corners of the world. But they wouldn't dare to cross the immense distances in the Pacific Ocean. The Solomon Islands were their boundary, until some 3,000 years ago.
Wow.
That's when they started sailing beyond this point in search of new lands. They reached New Zealand only 800 years ago though, and the first people to arrive were the ancestors of the Maori.
Only 800 years ago. That's pretty crazy, considering how some of these other countries go back way further than that. 800 years is really not that much. I would have never guessed that it's only been that long.
Which are the indigenous people of mainland New Zealand. They were on their own for about 600 years, battling each other until the Europeans came. Even though their numbers were close to 1,000, and they only controlled this area up north, it was enough to decrease all 100,000 Maoris present at the time to about 70,000. And no.
I always hate hearing that kind of stuff. If they're only taking that little tiny part and you want to come over there too, go take some of the other land and leave them alone. Like, I mean, where we are in time now is not as common to see this, but it's just crazy to think how much that took place back then.
Not because they tried to enslave them or wage war on them. They actually had a friendly-ish relationship at the beginning.
Okay, maybe I spoke too soon.
But rather due to diseases from Europe and shared technologies, such as the musket, that influenced them to seek war against the different Maori tribes in the islands. Anyways, fast forward to 1788, the British established the colony of New South Wales, which included both territories from New Zealand and Australia down to a certain latitude and longitude degree. It went back and forth through the decades, and they remained part of this changing colony until 1840, when the British signed a treaty with the natives to erect New Zealand as a separate colony whose complete sovereignty belonged to the UK. It is worth noting that the Maori claimed that the treaty translation didn't include the words full sovereignty, and this issue actually led to war and land confiscations by Britain. After some time, in the 1900s, 3 territories were transferred from the British Empire to New Zealand. 2 of them would later become associated states, and 1 would become a dependent territory.
I've heard of Cook Islands. I've never heard of Tokelau and Niue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right. But I don't really know much about any of them.
All 3 of them under the realm of New Zealand. There was 1 additional territory that they occupied after beating Germany in World War I. It would, however, gain independence in the 1960s, so that leaves us with all these islands nowadays. Now, you may ask, At what point did it become independent? Well, New Zealand has no fixed date of independence from the United Kingdom.
Interesting.
Instead, it came about as a result of its evolving constitutional status. The British offered external autonomy in 1931, and they adopted said autonomy in 1947. It was later extended when they removed all ability of the British Parliament to pass laws for New Zealanders, or Kiwis as they're called. They inhabit these 16 regions, and they have their capital city, Wellington, located in the region with the same name. Some outlying islands are not included within regional boundaries, but that's only because they're being inhabited by a small number of conservation department staff. The Chatham Islands is also regionless, but its council does have some of the powers of a regional council. Now, its geography is quite interesting. The South Island is shaped by the Southern Alps, which run along it from north to south. They include New Zealand's highest peak, Mount Cook, at 3,800 metres above sea level, and thousands of steep mountains and deep fjords, with breathtaking scenery that could only be found in a fantasy movie.
It's beautiful, man. I've seen a little bit of stuff about New Zealand over the years, so I'm not completely ignorant to what's there. But I don't really know a whole lot about like landmarks, and like I didn't know it was quite as mountainous as this. It looks really, really pretty. Australia has always been somewhere on my bucket list of places to visit, and with New Zealand being so close, if I do ever get to get down there, it would be nice to get to spend a little bit of time over in New Zealand as well.
Oh wait! New Zealand owes its southern mountain chain, and perhaps even both islands' emergence above the waves, to both the Pacific Plate and the Australian Plate converging. This makes this place particularly prone to earthquakes and volcanic activity, and that is the characteristic of the North Island. It is less mountainous, yes, but with a prominent volcanic plateau with all these active volcanoes around.
I actually watched a documentary on one of the volcanoes that erupted, and there was a tour of people there, and I think I watched that on Netflix. I can't remember for sure. Really sad story, lots of life lost. Just goes to show you can't predict anything when it comes to volcanoes. It's like, as cool as it would be to visit a site like that, I think that I would be too cautious to go anywhere near an active volcano, me personally.
Including White Island, the most active volcano in New Zealand. Short and steep rivers also flow in the country, and they all feed forests, which make up about 38% of the land area. Add remoteness to all of these characteristics, and you'll find a very unique wildlife, such as many different species of birds, including the kiwi, the national animal.
That's where the term kiwi came from. I was thinking of the fruit. I didn't know there was a bird called a kiwi.
Climate-wise, New Zealand has a largely temperate climate, while the far north has subtropical weather during summer, and inland alpine areas of the South Island can be as cold as -10 degrees Celsius in winter. Most of the country lies close to the coast, which means mild temperatures, moderate rainfall, and abundant sunshine. However, the weather can change unexpectedly, as cold fronts or tropical cyclones quickly blow in. This is actually a reason why many unexperienced tourists go missing for weeks. So, if you are going hiking, have fun, but take your precautions. In spite of
Take a guide from the native land that can show you where to go, and be responsible, and don't get yourself lost in some woods and never found again.
this lesser-known fact, New Zealand's tourism industry has become quite big, understandably. I mean, who wouldn't want to go there? So, the first thing you need to know is that the main hub of the country is Auckland, which is also the largest city, with its airport having non-stop flights from all of these places. Once here, you could fly to these regional airports. Or,
Actually, let me go back and see that. I want to see. So I think this looks like it might be Houston, because I know that we have a lot of flights that go in and out of Houston. It also might be Georgia or Alabama. It's hard to tell for sure. I'll have to look that up and see if there's a flight straight out of Houston there.
once here, you could fly to these regional airports. Or, take a ride through these roads. There is a ferry service here, by the way, so you can take your own car with you.
This map reminds me of like super old, like maybe Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 era of Super Mario Brothers. I like it. It's kind of cool. And I can't. It almost looks like if you were to mix Super Mario Brothers with Zelda. Completely unrelated, but I like these graphics. They're really neat.
Making your dream adventure of going from Auckland to Queenstown, watching fantastic views, a 22-hour trip. In addition to tourism, New Zealand has one of the most globalised economies and depends greatly on international trade, mainly done through its port over here. The three main export groups are animal products, making up about 42% of all of their trade, foodstuffs, and wood products, and they go to these top destinations. When talking about imports, well, most of it comes from China and Australia, including machinery, mineral products, and transportation-related items. But the single most imported item is cars, representing 8% of all of their imports, most of them coming from Japan. But no matter how much trade is done with the US, China, or Japan, the number one partner in crime, brother, and even rival is Australia. Both countries share a British colonial heritage, and both have fought alongside one another in major historical events. They have a very deep economic integration, and they have freedom to travel, live, and work. And even though New Zealand chose not to join the Australian Federation in 1901, it maintains close political ties. Although sometimes they may have tense moments, as any sibling would do. They're also very competitive, and their rivalry shows in the sporting field. So, if you're looking for a cricket game or a rugby game to watch in New Zealand with the most buzzing atmosphere, make it an Australia versus New Zealand game. Just don't ever say that Pavlova is Australian. Ever. So, here you have it. These people at the edge of the world, and whether or not you like their ability to smell uranium, their sexy English, or the fantastic land they come from, you'll know that they have a lot to offer. Thank you for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.
Looks like a beautiful country. Definitely would love to visit there one day. Hopefully I can make that happen. If you guys are new here and you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe so you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. I try to upload videos quite often. Sometimes I do them daily, but in general, at least 10 to 15, maybe 20 videos a month. So yeah, keep coming back and check out more. I do reactions to different countries and cultures. I do reactions to like hip hop, predominantly Harry Mack. I've been introducing some other music that I've been reacting to. And I don't just do reaction videos, I also do puzzle videos, time-lapse videos of puzzles. And I've got a lot of new content I'm going to be introducing soon, as well as my podcast. So yeah, so I've got a lot of different stuff on my channel. It's not all reactions. So you might find something else you like. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and comment below if you have a favorite spot in New Zealand, or if you're from New Zealand, or if there are some specific places to check out in New Zealand if I ever get the chance to visit someday. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.